Hello everyone, this is Jay from BroGaming TCG today, and today we are playing some more Elder Scrolls Legends. Now, if you guys haven't seen my other videos on this, definitely go in that description below and click on the playlist. I have done two other videos specifically on this deck actually, and aggro decks in general, and today that is actually going to be our topic of this video, is how to play an aggro deck, A lot of people struggle against aggro decks, and maybe learning how to play them, or if you want to play an aggro deck, playing them is something that you can always learn to do, and it will always improve your game. Learning other types of decks is one of the fundamentals to playing a game and becoming good at it. So here, as you guys see, I start off with Afflicted Alien, which and I'm playing Lurking Crocodile right now, mostly because that was my only option. But Afflicted Alien is one of the best cards for an aggro deck to start off with, because it gets you closer to that rune break. And every rune break is one step closer to that victory, because you're going to be dealing mostly face damage. And here's another tactic. A lot of people use summoning effects that do damage on other creatures. Well, when most summoning effects you can do directly to the face of your opponent, and that's one more point. It put me ahead. I go ahead and use Fireball here. Really, the only reason to ever attack ever to destroy your opponent's creature when playing an aggro deck is with an action card. There's really no other reason to destroy an opponent's creature other than if he's using guard, which later in this video you'll see my opponent here use guard. And here's something that you kind of have to play around as well. Creatures with a summoning effect or a break effect, because he has ward, so you know that he's most likely going to just run that card into it so he can get a 5/5 Frost Atronach, which does have guard and is very hard for my deck to get around. So I'm going to be playing around that card specifically. He goes ahead, throws down a guard here. It's only a 1/1, so it's not a big deal, but he does take out my 2/2, which I was planning to crash. Spider Worker is really in this deck specifically to get those draw powers, and I usually play him in the opposite lane that I'm focusing on. And this is another really good card, Stone Throw, that I just drew. A very good card to knock out opponents. And you'll see how I use this Stone Throw, and I'll talk about it a little bit later in my video. But unfortunately, I have to take one of my 2/1 Shrieking Harpies and clash it with that guard, which sometimes that happens. But this deck does not handle high guard cards in control decks. Control decks are very hard for it to play around. And this is actually a semi-control deck. I'm not sure if this was totally a full control deck, but he does play a lot of guard cards, especially towards the end of this gameplay. So once again, Last Grasp and how to play around those type of cards, you really can't, because upon death they get another one. But this card especially isn't that big of a deal. It's just going to throw another one into his deck with its 0 cost. I'm not too worried about that. The real problem is that Breton Conjurer. Because of that 5/5 Frost Atronach, it's really posing a threat to me, so I go ahead and use my Stone Throw on it, which is going to cancel out that effect because I never break the ward. I just simply destroy the creature. And that's something that you want to play around. You want to play around anything that gives your opponent an advantage on your deck, which for this specifically aggro decks is guard. Guard is something that is basically your doom. And here he goes ahead. I've started to play in the other lane a little bit because I know that splitting up a lane gives me a large advantage. He has 2 creatures in one lane. I have 2 creatures in both lanes, which one doesn't do any damage, but still actually kind of helps me out in the long run, because it plays a little trick on your opponent's mind. Even though it's not a threat, your mind will tell you that it's still a creature. So really, it'd still be a threat, but he does wipe out the entire field, unfortunately, which kind of resets the game, which throwing down Ice Storm isn't a great idea unless you're in the lead, especially if you don't have creatures that are going to withstand it, because it does damage to both sides of the field. There's another Afflicted Alien damage, 2/2 to both, which got me another Rune Break, which Rune Breaks are very common in aggro type decks, and that's why I've been experimenting with some Beast Form aggro decks, and I'm actually planning on uploading a few Beast Form aggro decks here very, very soon. That kind of slowed the game down. And this is why I say this is a control deck, and a very good, because one, he does play a Beast Form card, but this is a control deck purely based on the fact that It's meant around slowing me down, controlling the game, which if you don't allow your opponent to ever control the game with an aggro deck, then you have full control. You just pound them into it. And as you guys can see, I have yet to worry about one of his creatures. I've yet to even destroy one of his creatures with one of my creatures other than his guard. That he played at the very beginning of the game with my Shrieking Harpy. And that's the key to aggro decks, is just not worrying about your opponent. Rushing the field with some low-cost Magicka cards that have some high attack, like my 4/1, like my 3/1, like my 4/2. These are all 3/2 cards, 3 Magicka cost, 2 Magicka cost cards. I'm flooding the field. He probably has a lot of control decks play off high guard cards that cost 4 and 5. So I'm rushing the field a lot more efficiently than he is, allowing me to just rush him. And especially without any guard cards on the field, that is going to be a downfall. So if you want to learn how to counter aggro type decks, then you really want to play some strong guard cards. You want to play some 5/5s, you want to play some 4/2s, you want to play some 2/4s even. Those are types of guard cards that you want to be able to play, because most aggro type decks don't have too many high defense cards, and this is where I actually win. I luckily drew into Crushing Blow, which secured me the game. Crushing Blow is a great card. I love it. I've won so many games with Crushing Blow off the top deck. So anyways, guys, definitely leave some comments below. I respond to all of them. It really allows me to engage in some conversation with you guys, and I love to do that. So definitely leave your comments below. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Also, guys, I want to tell you that I'm very excited that this series is doing very well, so thank you guys for all of the support on this series. Anyways, guys, this has been Jay from BroGaming TCG, and I want to remind you all to always keep on battling and pursue your dreams. Thanks for watching.